Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Erin and today I am doing a video all about project panning. About a month or so ago, one of you commented that you wanted to see a more in-depth video about how I started project panning, how my panning journey has kind of evolved over the years, and I really wanted to go a little bit more in depth with it. And I also have been promising you guys that I would have some sort of shareable link with my project panning spreadsheets, so I was able to put those together. And so in this video I want to go over my reasoning behind why I started project panning, how I got to the point now where I feel like I'm very organized and mindful about what I'm bringing in and why I am project panning. And then also I will share my spreadsheets and also let you guys know how to use the shareable link down below. But if you want to learn more about my panning journey and maybe get some tips and tricks for yourself, then keep on watching. So I think that the first step to panning is figuring out why you want to project pan. And so what is your goal with panning? For me, it was to use up the things in my collection that were getting old. It was to be mindful about how long it takes to use items up because I was bringing in more than what I was able to use up. It came down to finances, about spending too much money on makeup and beauty and then it just sitting in my drawers or on my shelves. And so that was kind of my catalyst to start with project panning. If you feel like you are good with your finances and you're good with your consumption and what you're bringing in, but you just want to start project panning for fun or to join in on some of the amazing projects that go around YouTube and Instagram, then that is a perfectly reasonable reason to start panning. You might not have to be as, I don't want to say strict, but you might not have to track as diligently or maybe be, I'll use the word obsessive, be as obsessive as I was in the beginning because I needed that behavior change so that I would not buy and I would not consume. So first and foremost, figure out, why do you want to start panning? What do you want to get out of it? What are the goals? And I think that that is a good place to start. From there, I think that an inventory is a really good way to start tracking. And one way that I think about this is in my drawers, I have my little organizers and they're maybe, 6 inches by 4 inches. But a lot of products can fit into those bins. So while I think in my head as far as spatial awareness maybe, that I am only looking at a 6 by 4, space in my collection, but that 6 by 4 space holds 15 products. It might hold $400 worth of products. So that's where being able to see everything laid out on a spreadsheet and actual numbers next to it, that's where I ended up realizing that I had a whole lot more in my collection than I was giving it credit for because it did fit in a smaller space. This also was the issue with lip products with me. A few years ago, I think I had like 50 or so lip products, and now I'm down to like 7 or 8, which is very manageable for me. So that was another one where the lip products were taking up a very small portion of my storage, but there was a lot of products and a lot of things that would go bad. And if you are not in the situation to where you can just throw $15 in the trash can, and I don't know how many of us are with this economy right now, but I think that when we throw away a product, we're like, oh, well, I'm so sad I didn't get to use it, but we're not seeing the opportunity cost of that money towards something else in our lives. So I also had to be very mindful of opportunity costs. And this even comes down to, and this is maybe a bad example because this is one that I kind of overlook of, I think my eyeshadow collection is worth like $2,000. So instead of $2,000 sitting on a shelf, if I had that cash, I could be investing that. I could put that into something else. And so that's the other part about opportunity cost is, are you also trying to pan things to get the value out of them, or to be mindful about not picking up more? Because products sitting on a shelf being unused, you're losing out on the opportunity cost of that money, of maybe the time that it would take to pan that item. But for eyeshadows, like I said, I have become accepting that eyeshadows are just something that I really enjoy. I'm okay with them being pretty on a shelf. I don't mind that dollar amount. I don't mind the opportunity cost to that. But other things, especially cream products, when I had 15 foundations, I didn't feel comfortable with the opportunity cost of that. I would rather be doing other things with my money and then bringing in foundations as I needed them. So I think that also looking at if there's something else you need to do with your finances, this is a really good way of actually putting that dollar amount in front of you so that you're just not mindlessly spending. So this next part is where I kind of go into more of what I will call maybe an obsessive behavior. But really what I was trying to do was I was trying to form a new habit. So I became very, very diligent about tracking. It was to the point in the very beginning of tracking and doing my spreadsheets that I would look at my spreadsheets every day. And if you are ever having an issue with spending or shopping, I think that changing the behavior to looking at what you do have versus spending that same amount of time scrolling or shopping, that's where we need to change the mindset and change the behavior. So for me, and I know for a lot of people, if we shop because we are trying to feed into a certain emotion. If we're not feeling our best and we shop and it gives us that little bit of serotonin, that was a very short-lived. Sure, being able to actually receive it after you get, like it when it's shipped to you, that's another little hit of serotonin. But then it goes up on a shelf and it's like you don't get that same reward for it. So in my brain, I had to start rewarding myself by being more in control of my collection and of my makeup and of my spending. And as I was kind of thinking about what I wanted to talk about in this video, it made me think back to my childhood. And, maybe a little bit of a content warning, but like my childhood, like a lot of people's, it was a little bit rocky, divorced parents, all that stuff. And so as a child, when things are happening in your family that you don't have control over, usually children try to find a way to control. This can come out in a lot of different ways, but for me, it came in like rearranging my room, decluttering my closet. Like I was always trying to, if there was chaos around me in my household, if I could clean my room, if I could reorganize my room, if I could make that space in the house feel comfortable and I could feel like I could feel proud of it, then that is where I was able to comfort myself. So that was a soothing mechanism. That was a coping mechanism that I had as a child. So when I looked at the chaos of my spending, the chaos of feeling that I needed to have every new release, I kind of went back to that self-soothing behavior of feeling in control by organizing. And so I did that with my collection. I organized my drawers. I put everything where it needed to be. I kind of even told myself that if this does not fit in this drawer, then I need to declutter. Like I was very strict with myself. So that made me feel more in control of the items. And I think when I felt in control of the items, then I could control myself and my behavior, my thought process about purchasing. So I had to do it that way. So instead of scrolling on Instagram or scrolling through the new section at Sephora, I would look at my spreadsheets. Instead of, going on to purchase the new eyeshadow palette, I would find whatever color I liked in that palette. I would come into my collection and I would swatch all of my colors that were like that. A couple years ago, I don't even know what it was, but a palette came out that had a lot of beautiful greens in it. And I went through my collection and I swatched all my greens and I was like, oh my God, I have such beautiful greens. And then it made me excited about using what I have versus purchasing the new and bringing in these same colors that I already had, that I was already able to swatch. So that's where I shifted my time and behavior of shopping and scrolling to actually feeling and doing something that I was more in control of. One of you had also brought this up to me about, you know, in childhood, if we did have scarcity and we were resource hoarding because we didn't know when we would be able to have a good meal again or get new clothes to wear. Like, like I said, a lot of us have grown up in tough times, but then as adults, we have jobs and positions and we've gotten our life to where we can spend and we're not worried about where our next meal will come. Then we end up bringing in excess. And I think that that can go two different ways. I think that can go, I didn't have this before, but now I can, so I will. And I think that also goes into also the scarcity mindset of, oh, I never had enough, so let me get extra just in case. And those are, I mean, they're tied together, but they're also two different kind of subsets of the thinking to kind of work with. And I think that, of course, we all should go to therapy and kind of work through our childhoods and any other, traumatic or hard times in our lives that are sticking with us and causing behaviors. But again, like I didn't have a whole lot growing up. And so when I got my big girl job after I got out of school, it was kind of a free for all of, oh my God, now I can finally shop at Sephora. Like I did not start shopping at Sephora until 2017, 2016, when I got my first like good paying job out of school. So, this has not been a lifelong, love of makeup for me. This is something relatively new, but I think that when I finally had more expendable money, I was like, oh, now I can get everything. And again, that got me to a place where now I'm approaching 40 and my savings is not where it needs to be. My debt is not where it needs to be. My retirement is not where it needs to be. And again, I look back on the 2,000 or more dollars per year of products that I'm using up, and I'm thinking to myself, what can I do with that money that is different? And I know there's a lot of people out there that their collections are worth thousands of dollars, but it's difficult for maybe them to have enough saved up to fix a vehicle or to even take their pet to an emergency vet. I think I explained in my Get Ready With Me that Simon, we had to take him to the emergency vet twice. We ended up spending $8,000. And, again, I was thankful that, we had that to be able to spend. But sometimes people can't scrape enough together for, emergency vet bills. And we have to be mindful that things will happen in the future that we need to prepare for. We can't just think about the now that, oh, I want that new thing now. And that's the delayed gratification. Like that's another part of it. It's finding the other ways to get your hits of serotonin. And for me, again, I changed my behavior where I felt good when my inventory was, looking good, when I already knew what was the next product that I needed to pan, when I was swatching things, when I was organizing things in my spreadsheets. Like that's when I felt good. That's where I got my serotonin hits. I no longer got it from pushing buy now. Another part that helped me be mindful about my collection is I removed Instagram from my phone. I still have it on my iPad, but I took it off my phone because I was more likely to scroll on my phone at night versus scrolling on my iPad. I still do have the Sephora and Ulta apps, but I kind of hid them back in folders where it takes me more steps to get there. You can remove your credit cards from your like Apple Pay or from your phone's wallet. Remove your debit and credit cards from being saved on the websites so that there's that extra step that you would need to take to purchase. I know a lot of times, if you're in bed scrolling at night and you can just hit buy now and then, you buy it with the saved card, you don't even have to get out of bed, and within 30 seconds, you've made a purchase. Versus if you have to get up out of bed, go get your wallet, which again, put your wallet not right next to your bed, but you have to go get your wallet, you have to pull out your card, you have to turn on the lights, you have to put your card number in. Now you're putting more steps and barriers and obstacles between the like behavior that you're trying to stop. And that's where, again, removing those things off of my devices really did help me with kind of separating those things to where now, like, my items that I want to buy in the VIB sale, they've already been sitting in my cart for like a month. And of course, Sephora sends me the emails and the text messages that, oh, your cart is waiting for you. And I'm like, cool story, but I'm going to wait for it to be on sale. So I'm able to have that delayed gratification because I would rather get the gratification from getting things on sale and staying within my budget. Those are the things that are giving me the gratification, not the actual purchases. So that, and again, this was over like a 3-year period that I made these changes. So please don't, if you're struggling with some of this stuff and you're trying to figure out how can I put some mechanisms into place, don't think that this is going to happen overnight. Don't think that this is something that came easy. Just because I'm talking about it in a sense that you're like, oh, well, that makes sense. It should be easy. When we are changing behaviors that are ingrained in us, they're extremely difficult. So please give yourself patience, give yourself grace. It's not all going to fall into place in one shot. So give yourself a little bit of leeway. So we have figured out why we want a project pan. We have done our inventory. Again, if it comes down to a budget or shopping or whatever it is, we have figured out mechanisms to not purchase more and more and more. So now we are ready to project pan. So let me pull out my tools that I have kind of come across that have been extremely helpful for me. So you guys have seen this before in my videos. Let me take my pen out, but my panning journal. So I started using a panning journal, I think back in 2020. Yes, in 2020. But it was very, very rudimentary. Like I was just tracking, what items I wanted to use up. It wasn't until 2021 where I actually started like weighing things and measuring how, like how long a pencil is and marking it. That didn't come until, again, some trial and error. And I know a lot of people will keep some of their like tallies on their computer, on their spreadsheets. For me, logging in and clicking through the buttons and like putting tallies, I think that would deter me because in the morning, I want to flip this open. I want to put my tally marks where they need to be. I want to close this. It takes me 20 seconds to do, and then I'm on with my day. If I had to click through a couple different forms and spreadsheets and change numbers, like I think I would lose interest in that very quickly. But with this, it is very simple. I know that you guys have seen my panning journal before, but I'll show you one of my pages. But it is very simple where I have my products. I have things that I have used up. I highlight around them so I know I can skip over them. I have my different colored tallies for the different months. I have my different weights. I have like no pan left behinds where I'm checking off pans. Over here I have like my measurements with how tall things are, and this is just the system that has worked best for me. I have my different colored markers for different months, but again, if you don't want to get that deep into it, then just use a pencil and just mark them off. You don't have to weigh your products if you don't want. I think that this is just part of the behavior that tells us how long it takes to use up products. So when I'm thinking in my head, oh, I want to try that new foundation, well, I still have 3 foundations in the wings waiting for me before I can even buy a new one. And why am I going to let those continue to sit there? and buy a new, like, that makes no sense to me now. It's kind of like, why would you let food just rot in the back of your fridge and keep bringing in more? Why are you not eating the food that you're bringing in each week? So that's where my mentality went. That's why I needed to track, because I needed to have that reinforcement that things take time to use up. So it also kind of told me, like, my Holy Grail eyebrow pencil, it takes me 8 months to use that up. So I only need to buy like 2 eyebrow pencils. It'll make me through the entire year. And then I'm not constantly like, do I need an eyebrow pencil? How long do I need? Will this take? Like, I know already because I've tracked it. So that also did help me. So I highly recommend some sort of panning journal. I like the ones with the dots because, again, I'm able to kind of formulate all different kinds of, I don't want to call them spreadsheets, but just ways to track things. Probably also like a graph style paper. I don't, lined paper, I'm sure too, it could do wonders, but I don't know. I'm just not a lined paper type of person. But like I said, I have my different colored pens that I use. I do have a jewelry scale. So I have all of my panning items linked down in my description box on pretty much every single one of my videos. None of those are affiliated because, again, I'm a small channel. I'm not going to pay for the website that affiliates codes. So these are just codes down there for you guys to enjoy for yourself. But I do have a scale that is a jewelry scale. This does do my grams, and it goes to 2 decimal places, so that gives me really accurate measurements on my products. So I do use a scale. I have items that I use to mark my products off on the containers. So I have a Sharpie, and then also for some glass containers that the Sharpie will rub off of, I do just have a black nail polish, or any sort of nail polish that you want to use. You can just put dots on the side of the glass. I know some people don't like marking up their products, and again, that is completely fine. For your purposes, it might be helpful to take pictures every month so that you can go back in your pictures. Because again, if we can do something else constructive with our time apart from scrolling and buying, like, let me compare my pictures and see how I'm doing with my foundation. Like, go back and look at the pictures and see how you're doing. Then you're focusing on achieving the goal of using the product up instead of scrolling and shopping. So changing the the thought process and the behavior. Another thing that I love for panning are my kind of panning tools. This is the spatula from Sigma. I have 2 of these. One I keep in my bathroom for like only skincare, and then this one I use for makeup. But I use this for repressing, which I have my repressing videos in my shorts, so I'll link them up in the eye and down below. But I use this spatula for everything. So I use this for cleaning out products. I use this for repressing. What else do I think that's pretty much it that I use, but it's nice to have a spatula around, and that's what these 2 are as well. This is a bigger one and then a smaller one. These ones are interesting because it has like a spoon and then it has a spatula on the other side. So I've really liked the spoon side for getting in there and like actually scooping the products out. I was able to decant one of my concealers using the spatula, and again, I'll link that short up. Can I link shorts in the eye? But I'll definitely link it down below. But I love using my spatulas. Same thing with this metal spatula. This is very, very handy to get product out of containers or to pop shadows out, things like that. This one is really convenient. A pair of needle nose pliers. So I only use these pliers for makeup. So these are not in my tool box or my tool bag. This stays in my drawers for my collection. I always wipe down the tips with alcohol, but if you need to get stoppers out of products, get yourself a pair of pliers that is just for your makeup and just for panning. This has changed the game. Using tweezers, like, you could stab yourself with it. You can push the stopper back into the product. Tweezers also, because they're sharp, they rip up the stoppers if they're made out of thinner plastic. This, easiest thing to get stoppers out in the world. So, but again, clean them only for makeup, please. I do have a flashlight here because, again, if you're trying to see into the bottom of products that have a little bit more opaque, or you're trying to see where you're at with your products with opaque packaging, a lot of times a flashlight will help you to see where you're at. And those are the items that help me with panning. Like I said, the main things that I use is really like my scale, and again, my marking tools. But even if you don't have any of that, get yourself some way to write things down, to track them, take pictures with your phone, figure out the best way for you to track your items. And even with that, again, I became a little obsessive with it, where I want it to kind of be uniform throughout the panning journal. I want things like I always write my products in the same color. I write my weights in the same color. I have my different colors for the different months. So that way it's aesthetically pleasing to me. I'm not bringing chaos into my panning. My panning is something that I still have control over. It's something that is not necessarily going to make my brain overstimulated, or it's not going to make my brain kind of, again, fall back into that chaos mindset. That's why I have it so organized, and bless my husband. As much as he jokes about how organized I am, I know he does appreciate it, because pretty much if we need anything, I can find it. Like I said, we bought our house 9 years ago, and we needed our like deed for some reason, and like I have a binder from when we bought our house that has all of our paperwork, all of our like inspections. There was another thing where we needed a copy of where our septic tank is on our property, and I was able to go straight into a binder and pull it out because we got the septic survey and permit in our packet, so we knew exactly where it was. Because when we had our fence put in, they had to drive back there with some equipment, and you cannot drive over septic tanks. So I had to make sure I like marked that area off. So for me, it's just my way of taming the chaos and having a little bit more control over it. And whenever I feel in control of something, I feel more comfortable with that behavior, with that goal, with that track. And so that is how I ended up using my tools to really hone in how I am tracking for my project pan. All right, so now here is the section where I want to go into, let me put my tools away. I want to go into my spreadsheets that I'm going to have the links down below. Let me go ahead and screen record off of my iPad. So this spreadsheet is not all inclusive. I did not make every single tab that I have in my inventory because I wanted to make it where you guys could customize it for yourself. So I did a few different tabs at the bottom. Let me see if I can get this to disappear. So at the bottom, I have the primers, foundations, eyeshadows. Those were the main categories that I wanted to create spreadsheets for you guys. And basically, with this, I'm pretty sure with Google Sheets, you guys will need to either download this for yourself or copy and paste these formulas into your own Google spreadsheets. If you try to edit it in the link, then you are editing the master copy. So if you are going to use these spreadsheets, please copy and paste them. Please download them for yourself, so that we are not inputting things into the master copy. And I think I might try to put some allowances on here to where this is maybe view only, where you guys can't edit it. So please get the sheets for yourself. But this is an example of like a primer spreadsheet. So we have our product, our cost, when we're purchasing it, when is it panned, is it decluttered. Then I have another column over there for the link. And this is mainly because I am doing YouTube and I don't want to have to pull links off of the websites every single time I do a video. So for me, basically when I buy a new product and I put it into my spreadsheet, I get my condensed link for it and I put it in there. So anytime that I am linking a product, I just basically have to copy the link out of my spreadsheet and I know what product it goes to. So if you have a YouTube channel also, please use that category or that column if you want to. Also, if you are doing maybe a wish list and you want to have the links to the products in your wish list, this might be a good column to use for you guys as well. But I did set this up for 2024. If we look at our space down here, this is our totals for 2024. So anytime that I use up a product, I take it out of the main spreadsheet and I do move it down to this area down here. And that is basically because those are my products that I have used up. So basically I am looking at the total number of items that I've used up in a year, and also of course our formula will have the cost of the items that we used up that year. Each year I do put a new section right above the last for those items, and I can kind of scroll back to mine and give you guys, so basically this was my used up items for 2022. This is my used up items for 2023. My 2024 will go above that. So that is kind of an example of the way that I set up my spreadsheets for each year so that I can look at everything at a glance. So basically with this sheet, you can, duplicate this tab as many times as you want and change it to the different products. And so I do have the foundation and the primers here. The eyeshadows I changed a little bit where I have a column that says has pan. So you can either do this as eyeshadow palettes in general. You can actually list out all of your eyeshadow shades if you want. But basically for my powder products, I do have the column in there for has pan. Another column that I did add to my eyeshadow inventory, and I can scroll back over to that one as well. Where's my eyeshadows? Right there. So I did end up putting also how many pans the eyeshadow palette has. So basically at the bottom here, I can see that I have 700 pans of eyeshadow in my collection. So that for me is a tool that I like to use. But again, you don't have to have that column if you don't want to. That is just what makes sense for me. Now, for my other categories down here, so this is the 2024 pans. So this is basically where I will list all of my empties. So when I have used up a product in another category, I basically copy that line and I paste it into this one. This gives me also my column for my monthly totals, so I can see how much in empties I have for every month. And then of course, all the way at the bottom, we have our total for the year. Same thing, so with the purchases, of course, this is a little bit more of a complicated spreadsheet just because we have the multiple categories. So this is set up a lot like what my purchases look like this year. We have our date, our product, then I broke it down into makeup, skincare, hair care, and perfume. You can change or delete or edit those columns however it makes sense for you. We have our monthly spend, so of course you would take all of the costs for the items and you would add it up into a formula for the month, and then you can also keep track of the balance of your budget if that is something that you're doing. Now, of course, all the way at the bottom here on mine, I do have the amount per month that I'm putting in per pay period, per month, whatever makes sense for you. So you can actually split up your budget into however you want to split it up. We have our total for our budget. We have our total for the monthly spend, the total for our categories, our remainder that is left after we do spend. So let's say that we have a $10 product here. So I have already put in all the formulas, so that $10 shows up in our total spent and it is subtracted from the budget. So the formulas are in here. They should all make sense. So that is what I am looking at for the purchases. And again, You guys can change or add or delete anything in here that does not make sense for the way that you are doing your inventory or your panning. Of course, I have another sheet for the declutters, and again, anything that you declutter, you put over here. I make sure that I have a spreadsheet for my declutters because, again, that is money that I am basically throwing away or giving away. However, I end up getting rid of the products. And so that, to me, my declutter categories over the years has diminished a lot, that I don't want to declutter more than like $100 worth of products a year if I can. So this was important for me to see, because again, you just get rid of a product and you're like, okay, cool, it's out of my collection. But if that product was $30, that's just like handing over $30. So again, I had to be mindful about the money aspect of the products. So this is the big spreadsheet with the inventory. And this, again, is something that I started doing this year to be mindful of the overall numbers in my collection. Now, all the formulas are in here and they should work. So with this one, I do have my categories, and you guys can add, delete, do whatever you want with the categories. If you do add more categories, just make sure to copy and paste your formulas because otherwise they won't work. But at the very beginning of the year, go ahead, count your items, fill in all of your things. So let's say that you have 5 concealers. So this is broken up into quarters. So this is going to be your first quarter of the year. So you start with 5 concealers. Let's say you use up 1 and you don't declutter any, but you purchase 2 more. So that is going to put us at a +1 for the quarter, and that carries over into April to where now your inventory is your 6 concealers. And again, if my formulas are right, yes, at the end of the year, that also shows that you have your 6 concealers and that you're up by 1. So this should track across the year and give you your end of year numbers and also your differences as far as did you go up or down overall in your collection for the year. So that is how this one is laid out. I have the primer one filled out as well, just to make sure that my formulas work and just to make sure that everything was doing all right. So at the very bottom of each column, of course, we have our totals, our overall total products, our overall total items panned, decluttered, and purchased. And then also here is how we did for the quarter. Were we up or down? So I know, and again, I'll go back over to my spreadsheet to show you guys this with actual numbers in it. At the very end over here, we have our yearly totals. So this will show us how many items we purchased for the entire year. No, this is panned. This category is panned. How many items we panned for the year, how many items we decluttered for the year, and how many items we brought in for the year. And then it'll show us our difference as far as did we pan more than we purchased. So that is where that one comes in. Like I said, let me go over to my inventory so that you guys can see it with actual numbers in there. And so let's go back to maybe the middle here. Now I did color code mine with, if it's negative, it's red. If it's positive, it's green. If it's, a wash, then we have it as gray. So this one is where I put the colors in myself. I'm not that much of a spreadsheet nerd to know how to actually make the cell change color if it's a positive or negative number. If you know how to do that, do your formula. Share down below. Let me know. But I just changed those colors for myself. But with this one, we can see if we're looking at this third quarter, I started with 219 products. I panned 31, I decluttered 1, I brought in 26, so I'm still at a -6. So that means that I'm still using up more than I'm bringing in, which is where I want to be. I guess I can spoil this a little bit with some of my projected numbers. So these are all of the numbers here that I started out October with. So I was down by those 6 products in October. This is what I'm anticipating the rest of the year being, but of course my purchases, I'm not quite sure. I am purchasing a lot more because of Black Friday and restocking for next year, but still my overall numbers look really good. And oh, for hair care, that's supposed to be a negative, so we can definitely change that to our red color. So this is what it'll end up looking like when you guys fill it out yourself as you're tracking throughout the year. Of course, the end of year numbers here, that all calculates and populates over, along with the I am down 46 items. Again, this is projection, but by the end of the year, I should be down 46 products. So I let 46 products more leave my collection through panning than what I brought in. And that is where I'm talking about. This is where I want to be. I want to be where I am using up what I'm bringing in within that year to year and a half mark. So of course, my total panned for the year is going to be about 130, decluttered about 13 items, brought in about 100. And so again, that brings us to our, negative 46. So the numbers are what bring me satisfaction. If I'm seeing the numbers trend in the way that I want them, that is what brings me satisfaction. So if I saw all of these numbers be green across the entire year, that is not a green flag, but a red flag to me that maybe I'm not doing the right behaviors to meet my goals and I can make a change and a shift. So like I said, all of these spreadsheets are going to be linked down below and be available to you. Please copy and paste them into your own. Don't try to edit them in here, because again, this is on my Google Drive, so you won't be able to come back and access them and change them how you want, but it's something that you can definitely copy and paste into your own, or download the spreadsheets into your own, or even just take the idea and put it into Excel, or like I said, I have an iPad, so I use numbers, and so whatever is convenient for you to be able to use this kind of style of inventory, please feel free. So that has been my journey with panning. I maybe rambled or went off onto tangents and kind of talked about stuff that I hope was relevant, and I hope that it made sense to you guys, but I hope that this gives you a little bit of insight into some of the things that I did, not only physically with panning journals and tracking, but also things that I did mentally, emotionally, kind of like redirecting myself. Like, these are all things that I constantly had to be mindful about. And, buying a scale and getting a journal, that's easy. But changing the actual behavior, changing the thought process behind spending, healing old wounds of why we are consuming so much right now, that's the hard part. So again, I don't want you guys to ever feel like this is something that you should get perfectly next week, or even next year. This is going to take time, but the most important thing is that you have decided to start to change something that is causing chaos, disruption, strife in your financial well-being. Like, you're saying that something isn't right and there needs to be a change. And again, panning doesn't have to be that deep. For me, it really was me changing something, so it had to be that deep because I was changing emotional patterns and thought process patterns. But for you, it might not have to be that deep and great, like just have fun with it. But after I got past the point of changing the thought process, changing the behavior, then I was able to have fun with my panning. So when I do my updates, when I do all of my spreadsheets, and when I do my graphics and all that, that is fun to me now. That's not work. I would rather do that than do my job. So that is why I end up loving panning. I'm loving sharing my journey with you. I also love hearing about how you guys are doing and how you've implemented some of these things into your life. If you feel like sharing any of your struggles or triumphs down below, please do. It really is helpful for me to understand what you guys are going through, but it also might make sense and help somebody else who is reading the comments. So if you feel comfortable sharing, I highly encourage you to. I love our conversations down in the comment section. But of course, as always, I am going to encourage you to do all the things. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Let me know that you enjoyed the video and enjoyed my rambling and maybe my psychobabble. Let me know that you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. Of course, I do project panning, conscious consumerism, budgeting, eyeshadow, makeup, all the stuff in between. So make sure to stick around with that. I really do appreciate all of you. And thank you so much for the suggestion for this video. I hope that I was able to hit on some points that you were wondering about. If not, again, drop some stuff down below and I'd love to do a follow-up to this video to answer any more of your questions. But otherwise, I hope that you guys have a wonderful day and I will catch you in my next one.